Okay, everyone, now we're in game number 5. Right, game number 5. The score at the moment is 3-1 for Nicov of this best of 7. So we're now playing on Nikov's home map, which is Islands. StonePleaseAoE cannot afford to lose this game. His tournament life is on the line, and he's already starting with pushing in that deer. Really good move. So Islands is definitely a tricky map, where the outcome of the early water fights, even though landing is of course also an option, but a really risky one, usually comes down to where the players place their docks. If the docks are really close, then we'll see fire galleys into demos all throughout fuel age until one player won the water. If it's farther away, or someone is going for a side dock, for example, then there are more options. We see both players are quite far away from each other, and then it can be beneficial to go up even a little bit later deliberately, to have like 1-2 extra fishing ships. Ideally you'd be up later like 1 villager then, and you, by the time the first warships of your opponents are about to arrive at your docks, you have your first ships out yourself, your first fires in that case, and then transition into galleys pretty quickly as well from there. So build order wise, not too much special to be expected on Islands, so let's just speed things along to get to the later stages of the game faster. Nicov though, he already took almost 3 entire sheep, so don't like that too much. It's quite hard with that setup which he has to nail it, reaching fuel age at 9:15, which is on 19 villagers. Taking the second boar now, good move. Deer as well, he has to hurry up with those deer. Let's see the deer situation for StonePleaseAoE. Did he lose a villager there or what? No, those are just, I don't know what died there, must have been deer. And StonePleaseAoE, okay, just force dropped, nothing too special. Only 4 on wood at the moment. Well, we don't need that many woodcutters, of course, with Italians, but I would have preferred at least to cut a little bit of wood on a straggler or a late 5th villager on wood, because his dock will be idle, that's quite certain. Yeah, he cannot sustain production, while Nicov, he is going with 6 on wood here, clicking up at... wow. He went up on 19 villagers, so worked out well for him. His sheep micro was definitely on point considering that. Will he go for a 5th fishing ship as well? Probably not, even though he went for the 6th on wood quite fast. StonePleaseAoE also 4 on wood for him. He's a little bit later. He went 1 villager later as basically. If you do that, you need a 5th fishing ship. There's no reason to go up that late if you don't take an eco lead by that, and just having 1 villager working for an extra of how long, 2 minutes and 35 seconds if I'm not mistaken. That's not going to make up for the fact that the fight is going to happen fairly close to your docks. So the attacker, in that case Nicov, has the easier time on adding more docks. He already has his 3rd dock on the way. Did he build a house with him afterwards? Oh, he's going with a house here from one of his lumberjacks actually. He does not have 6 villagers on this lumber camp, so a really nice move by him. A little bit late. He can't afford the house as fast as he would have wanted to. And well, let's see when the first fight is going to happen. So both players are queuing up fires. None of the players, peculiarly enough, use the fishing ship to at least like check the opposing shoreline, if the opponent has a closed dock or not, because if you figure that out quite fast, then you also can figure out how greedy you can play this. And StonePleaseAoE, not sure why he's even going to the back with one of the fires. He saw a fast uptime by Nicov. It doesn't really make sense to play back dock, but well, it's a tournament game, nothing can be ruled out. Creative new strategies are sometimes are sometimes being seen even in important tournament games if people manage to keep them secret. Well, StonePleaseAoE taking a couple unnecessary hits with that fire, and look at how out of position this fire is. He has to retreat. Where's his third dock? Well, this fire is also not that involved though. So it seems like both players actually ventured all the way around. This didn't take a single shot of a different fire. So both split actually their first two fire galleys. That's going to be an advantageous fight for StonePleaseAoE. His problem is he must not lose the water. Look how exposed his berries are. They're exactly between. What's that? They're exactly between the docks of both players. A little bit closer to StonePleaseAoE, of course, but naturally, Nicov's fires will pass by there, which is why also the third dock should have probably been a little bit more forward to have more of a natural protection for those berries. Now he's going for the blacksmith without, well, now the galley transition starts. So he went for, how many does he have out on the field? Seems like 10 fire galleys, not a single demo. I've seen that quite frequently actually on islands, that people refrained from making demos. They don't help too much against galleys, of course. And you never know when your opponent is going to transition into them. So it's apparently a huge risk to take, because if you make a demo and then suddenly your opponent is transitioning to galleys quite early, then he can easily snipe them. But the production time of a demo is just way faster than both galleys and fires. And look at that, both players' economy also quite on par. Nicov going for a market, so is he going to sell his stone as well? Wow, 10 villagers on berries even by him. A single farm, both players could have formed 4 farms, well, not really, because they, wow, massive fight going on there, 13 fires, something you don't see that often on the maps which are currently in the map pool, with Mediterranean, whatnot. But Nicov apparently did a way better job in keeping his docks running. StonePleaseAoE though, on the way to Castle Age way earlier than Nicov. So what happened in terms of market abuse? He did not even buy 100 food at all. Now galley transition happening for StonePleaseAoE. So Nicov is trailing a little bit with his composition. He can't really easily well, he could engage, but by the time he's getting dangerously close to those fishing ships, StonePleaseAoE would have the means to defend with a few demos and also numbers of galleys where you can micro around, so the fires can't really engage that easily. But numbers, in terms of numbers, it's just looking so much better for Nicov. Look how much StonePleaseAoE's production is actually slacking. He has nothing in the queue at the moment, even though he has the resources that he could be producing. Oh, StonePleaseAoE, you can't afford that at the decider game. At the decider game of the decider stage. You lose this, you're out. But no landing of either of the players going on either. Sometimes you see players, instead of wanting to up with a market, making a barracks first and then an archery range after they invested into the mill. Wood-wise, it's also not that expensive. Just your economy is forced to be more on point then. And look at StonePleaseAoE, he even has the war galley production behind one of those galleys. He should have. It would have been quizzical if he cancelled production in here. War galley would kick in time before the dock is going down, but he even has his own navy close by, helping to fend off Nicov. From a pure number perspective, Nicov could still win a fight, but of course StonePleaseAoE can hit and run at the moment. And Nicov still only fires. He's not transitioning onto war galleys, instead he's going for a town center. Let's see StonePleaseAoE's economy. He's not going for town center, probably ballistics relatively soon. The problem is he has to invest more resources into his army composition. Nicov doesn't have invest a single resource into blacksmith upgrades, into something like fletching bodkin. Doesn't need a university for ballistics either. And look at that, he's even trapping those war galleys slightly, dealing quite some damage to all of those. Not getting a kill, but this one might go down, not really. But reducing their HP to a point low enough that Stark cannot micro anymore, because then, unless he manages to somehow deselect those two low HP war galleys, which is quite a hard task, he would lose those low HPs if he tries to turn around and get a shot onto those fires. Going for some demos now, gotta love that move. That's exactly what he has to do, and then it will be looking way better for Stark army composition wise, but he needs favorable shots as well with him. But now he reduced the HP of those fires quite nicely. KD wise it's looking way better for Stark actually, but Nicov getting himself a nice little eco advantage. He also added fishing ships in the time window he had, just by having been more consistent with his production from his docks. He's also producing from 4 docks. Actually, now as we speak, Stark having a 4th dock as well, quite far in the back. Not sure about that decision. He just wants the space for his better army composition to get into their full force. And Nicov still only producing fires. No, actually now he's switching into... Never mind, I read those symbols wrong. Is it Stark who is adding fires? Yeah, Stark is adding a couple fires, which makes sense. He can't really fend off those sneaky fires with small numbers of war galleys. He needs his own fires and a couple demos. Like if he just queues up 3-4 demos, then he'll be completely fine here on water at least, and can make a couple fishing ships then as well. But in terms of land eco, he's probably 10 villagers behind already. Yeah, that's exactly 10 villagers. Nicov with 6 fishing ships. So 2 more fishing ships, 10 more builds. Stark even, well, now going for horse collar, good. It's not too bad of a timing. Could have been earlier, but then you sacrifice your early water presence in the cast age slightly, which can cost you against as well sometimes. But those fires, look how much damage they're actually doing. Didn't pay that much attention onto Stark's docks though, how consistent he's producing throughout the castle age. And this fire is getting 2 kills, that should never happen there. Stark is just in a world of trouble, being 24 population behind Nicov as he just produced 34 more war galleys by the looks of things. Only war galleys in the queue now. It's quite hard to distinguish here. I think that's a fire. The text also says ungarrisoned fire ships. Compare the icons of both those units. But those war galleys have those huge ballista on themselves. So Nicov is playing this full 2 TCs actually. Going for drill nets now as well. Added a couple more fishing ships for an additional fish boom. So he doesn't want to risk losing the water by overcommitting into economy, which is a reasonable choice, especially if you want to produce from that many docks, from 4 docks. You need quite a lot of lumberjacks, like probably something like 5 per dock, which results into 20. The rest for getting the farm eco out, and thing is, if you produce fishing ships, that's... I wanted to say that's even more draining wood-wise, but that's actually not the case, because that only applies to Dark Age. Fishing ships produce significantly faster than all warships except demos in Feudal Age, while in Castle Age all warships produce faster than... Not in Castle Age, but when you have the War Galley upgrade, they all produce faster than fishing ships. So might be a slight overinvestment. No, never mind. His wood economy is just perfect. He wants ballistics as well, and he's only now starting his transition to war galleys without a single range and damage output upgrade. Sure, StonePleaseAoE has more TCs at the moment, but the lead boom-wise is still on the side for Nicov. StonePleaseAoE is catching up, but the time StonePleaseAoE needs to get on par in villager count, all that meantime, during all that meantime, Nicov's villagers were working. They were collecting resources. So, as you can also see, those villagers helped him to set himself into clicking Imperial Age. So that's going to be something like 32 minutes imp. Getting heavy plow now as well, wheelbarrow, typical Nicov stuff. He loves to do wheelbarrow late. Maybe he's forgetting that all the time, or he really thinks it's an overrated upgrade in a lot of situations. Well, on water it's reasonable, because you often want to get to imp as fast as you can, even idle town centers sometimes. So yeah, that's the reasoning for all of that. Now, StonePleaseAoE, on the other hand, is a little bit slow with adding in either farm economy or docks, but he can't really redock. Nicov is right there where he should be. 2 range for those fires. Let's see if that's one more range for a fire ship than for a fire galley. No, that's actually equal. So that's exactly as it is in feudal. They can't really reach that villager. Actually, they can. But I think if the villager would build from this tile, the fires would always hit the dock for some reason. The dock is for, or if something is in between a fire, like the shot on the, in between the fire which is attacking and the target, then the object in between is actually taking damage. So sometimes you can use a fishing ship to your advantage for that. You put a fishing ship between your fire and his fire, and the fishing ship is taking the damage. Hence your fire is winning the 1v1. You just have to remember to pull away the fishing ship early enough again to tank it. Yeah, and then that fishing ship will just happily keep working for you. So only now StonePleaseAoE advancing to the Imperial Age. Let's speed things along a little bit more. Let's see the economy of Nicov. Is he going to prepare himself to take the center island? And he is. He has actually 7 stone miners at the moment. Both TC's rally points even going onto that stone right now. Then how can StonePleaseAoE take back the water? Even a transport coming out from Nicov. So yeah, he is about to drop a castle on that extra boat, or potentially even on StonePleaseAoE's island. That might be not too bad of a decision to do that, but it's a huge risk to take. So if Nicov wants to safely take this game, no matter what, he should place the castle there. Also, he has some idea about how StonePleaseAoE's map shapes out. Look at his map. He was only spawned with 5 woodlines. Well, this one is quite a large one. Let's compare that to Nicov. Nicov, well, in pure numbers of woodlines he had 7, but he has 2 really tiny ones. So it's actually probably equal, if not a small. Oh, he's going for the aggressive castle on StonePleaseAoE's island, so he is going for the get out of my game castle. While StonePleaseAoE starts to grab onto it. No condo tieros from both the players. Quite surprising to me. Let's see the economy of Nicov. He's going for bombard cannons, so StonePleaseAoE doesn't have an answer to deal with them. Has block printing though. So let's see his gold count. Well, he's just investing everything he has onto water. The problem is he can't really easily touch that castle. He has to repair heavily. But, well, StonePleaseAoE went for redemption, so he's taking those bombard cannons with his monks, which is exactly what he needed. Yeah, Nicov can't touch those, and that's what I said. If you want to play this game safe, build a castle here, where he's now building the second castle. It's debatable though if it was maybe still worth it for Nicov to do it on Stark's island. After all, he took down a town center. He is denying a little bit of gold. He forced atonement, as said, a lot of traps as well. I think that castle is actually in range of the traps. Let's turn on the grid, the water grid. So that's like 6, 9, around 12 tiles diagonally. So if he positions them there, he can definitely rain onto that castle. But if Nicov just builds something behind here, a couple of guard towers, or look at him even making a monastery on that island. He's too lazy to transport his monk all the way back home. So why not put it straight onto that island? Which is reasonable, because if he loses those middle positions, he's rather likely to lose the game as well. But it's still not necessarily completely over in that case. Let's see relic count, how even it was. So we have 2 relics for Nicov. Yeah, we got the one neutral relic on that island there, so he has a small advantage on those regards. Let's see the navy numbers. So both armies getting ready for an engagement, but it's looking just so much better for Nicov. Let's see how many docks both players have as well. We got soon to be 11 docks for Nicov. He keeps building docks as he should at this stage of the game. You just have to be able to get a lot of reinforcements as your galleons die out on the field, else you're just going to lose the water. You can never really catch up in numbers most of the times. Well, if you have the center, then it's a different story. That's at least the way it is on team islands, where those 2 center islands don't exist, and where each player has a couple extra gold, not a couple extra golds, has usually 1 extra gold and 1 extra stone on his island. And that castle going down to cannon galleons, so he went for 5 elite cannon galleons even. Happened quite fast actually. Not even a trap was involved there. Okay, let's remove that ugly grid again. Now Stark is getting ready for an engagement up here. Nicov doesn't have the numbers, so he has to retreat, he has to react. And he's reacting after 2 losses, but it's not the end of the world for him. His production is paused at the moment though. Oh, look at his economy. 72 villagers on wood. Let's see if they're selling wood or not. No, the wood price is about where it should be. Maybe slightly deflated. But selling wood, of course, can be really fatal on this map. As wood runs out, the only resources you are usually left with are those fishes, or those deep fish. And well, you can't make ships from deep fish, right? And with hussars or only food, there's just no way you can take out the navy. You can never, no way you can ever touch them. The only thing you can do, if you have a safe passage on the water to transport over, send hussars again and again. Or something like condos if you have relics too, or if you have a good count of relics. So another battle on the water going on. Not sure why Nicov is taking this one. He doesn't have the numbers. Maybe he wants to buy time for something. I don't like that. But look at Stark. He's not getting the bulk of his army in position. Like, this is still a relatively even fight for Nicov, as his reinforcements are about to join the party as well. So that's 55, soon to be 60, so a full group. The maximum of units which you can put into one group of units for Stark there. Nicov is still taking the fight, believing in his ability to be better at stacking up those units, to be better in those engagements. We have a huge numbers advantage for Stark, but it's more even than it should be, the fight. Let's see, 38, well, nah, there's no way Stark is going to lose this fight, but he's going to take quite a lot of losses, and he's just buying himself time to get a castle. Went throwing the towel as well. So he is realizing Nicov is taking that extra gold as he's running out of gold, not a single gold miner left, can't access that gold because Nicov has the control with that massive range of a galleon. That's 7 plus 3. Just to put it into comparison, an arbalest has 5 plus 3. So that's as much as a Britain arbalest, right? Without yeomen, of course. They can easily range that gold. And the Condottiero raiding as well happening here. All the traps going down for Stark. And he can't even access more wood as well. Like, this wood is being controlled by Nicov partly at the moment. Sure, he would win this fight, but Nicov still has quite a lot of numbers on the water. Double the military count still. Close to being maxed out population-wise, and only about 10 of his military units are land units. 70-something galleons, right? A couple of fires mixed in as well. 74 warships for Nicov, and we got 38 for Stark. So yeah, not really, sadly for Stark, a way to come back into this game. So he's out of the tournament. 1000k going to his opponent, and gonna be interesting to see how, if Nicov can translate those convincing performances which he had in the qualifiers, especially here against Stark. Stark is not someone you win against without a fight, even if you're a top player, if you can translate that into the main event. Taking a look at the achievements, slightly better KD for Nicov, way more buildings destroyed for his endless lead on the water in terms of army count. He just took out houses, took out docks, TC stuff with his cannon galleons as well. Those cannon galleons were uncontested as well, right? They were roaming around somewhere here. Are they even reaching a town center? Looks like that. I mean, they have almost as much range as a trap. One range less, and that's about... yeah, that's... if they position themselves straight there at the shore, at the last tile, then I'm quite sure that's in range. Let's move on with the statistics. More resources collected on all ends for Nicov, 10k more wood. Let's see how much wood is left on his island. Well, not much more than on Stark's, maybe slightly more. No, actually slightly less, if there's even a difference, but Stark just can't access it, which is the difference. And soon Nicov would fill up his transports if he still has some alive. There's a transport here. Send groups of villagers to chop this wood as well. Extra gold there, extra relic, which we can see here. No, that's the next tab. Uptimes also almost, we can say that's perfect. 916. Like on paper, 915 would be the perfect uptime for 19 villagers, but well, usually a second passes as the game starts until the game queues up your villager, even if you start spamming those hotkeys before the game actually starts. So really crisp performance by Nicov, but look at Stark, 1830 castle age time, which is ridiculous as well. But just ended up not being enough for him. How did he reach that fast of an uptime? By idling his docks for quite some time, which basically was his death sentence in this game, in my opinion. Sure, it looks cool on paper, you have a temporary army lead, but all your opponent with his larger numbers has to do, he has to retreat. But on the other hand, you're producing faster in Castle Age, so maybe it can work out, but I don't think so. And most people would probably agree with that. Yeah, not too much to say about those stats. Nikov's economy never really got touched. He got the extra town center up faster, hence more army production throughout most of Castle Age all the way till the end of the game. So that was game number 5, and Nicov, as said, taking the set 4-0.